The sound of the city.
98fm's Dublin Talks
With Adrian Kennedy.
Well, good morning to you. Wednesday, the 31st day of July 2019. And this is Adrian Kennedy with you until midday today. Now, lots of stuff to get through on the programme, and we're going to try and squeeze as much of it in as we possibly can, including our first item. And this is a man we spoke to on this programme in the past. An asylum seeker from South Africa, living in Ireland since 2015, yesterday received a letter in the post from the Department of Justice, and there wasn't good news in the letter. Buliani, who is in his 30s, was told that his application for asylum has been rejected. He now has 15 days to appeal the decision and plans to fight it. He says that as a gay man, if he returns to South Africa and to his hometown of Cape Town, his life will be in danger. That's what he claims, and that is his reason he is seeking to be allowed to stay here in Ireland. Bulalani joins me on the line, and in fact, I believe you're actually, as we speak to you, on a bus heading towards Dublin to meet a solicitor.
Yes, I am. That's fine.
Okay. Welcome back to the programme. We spoke a number of months ago about the direct provision conditions that you were living in. And you did tell us at the time that one of the reasons that you were seeking asylum here in Ireland was because of the fear of what might happen to you if you return to South Africa. So tell me a little bit about your background. You're living in Ireland since 2015. Why did you decide to come here?
I initially had traveled to Ireland to pursue my studies in 2015. After that, I would have traveled back to South Africa in 2017. The last time I traveled to South Africa in 2017, the young lady who lived down the road from where I lived had been abducted and murdered for no reason other than her sexual orientation. And at that point, I decided that I would seek asylum in Ireland.
Okay, because you fear that should you return to South Africa as a gay man, you will face persecution. How widespread is the population, or sorry, is abuse of the gay community in South Africa?
Yeah, can you repeat that for me? I didn't get it. I'm on the bus, I'm traveling.
Okay, sorry. How widespread is homophobic abuse in South Africa?
It is very widespread. The South African Institute of Race Relations did a study, published a report in 2017, shortly after I claimed asylum. And on that report, they suggested that the safest place to be an openly gay person in South Africa would be Cape Town. And that's where LGBT plus people have been murdered in Cape Town on the basis of their sexual orientation, and that is for them. Recently, the South African government has deployed the military because the police are unable to cope with general widespread violence in Cape Town. So the idea that it would be safe then to return there is nonsensical when you consider that the military is actually taking the responsibility of having to protect life in Cape Town.
Okay, now, I was reading earlier on about gay rights and everything else in South Africa, and it would appear in terms of the law that the law in South Africa is not totally dissimilar to our laws, in that there is anti-discrimination in terms of employment, in terms of goods and services, recognition of same-sex couples, recognition of civil partnerships and so on. And in fact, most of the rights that gay people have here in Ireland, they also have in South Africa.
And we got them long before Ireland did. In the year 1996, the South African Constitution was the first in the world to explicitly prohibit discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation. But ever since then, we have seen a rise in violence against LGBT plus people that we never saw before. I've never heard in Khayelitsha, where I lived in Cape Town, people being murdered on the basis of their sexual orientation. So the law itself is quite progressive, but social attitudes haven't changed that much, and the law clearly does not prevent a person from being killed. Two of the people who were murdered after I claimed asylum in England were actually married, a couple, and they were murdered, they were raped, and they were burnt in their car. So the law, as progressive as it was, did not prevent homophobic South Africans from raping and killing them.
Okay, now I'm not saying that we have rape or killings of gay people here in Ireland, but we do still have, because we've talked about it on this programme, here in Ireland we do still have homophobic issues. We only covered an incident a couple of weeks ago on this programme. So all is not perfect here in Ireland either.
When I lived in Dublin for about 2 years, did I fear for my life when I was walking of Dublin. Same when I'm walking on the streets of Limerick. I'm not scared that my life would be in danger because of my sexual orientation. So there's a clear difference there. Okay,
so you would fear for your life if you were to return to South Africa?
There are LGBT plus people who have been murdered around me, who have been attacked around me where I lived in Khayelitsha. There are people who were attacked in my university when I was studying in South Africa. So I fear that I would face the same fate. I had been held at the shopping centre at some stage because of my personality.
Oh, sorry, we're losing you there. Sorry, I couldn't hear that last answer there. Say that again, please. No, we've lost him, have we? No, we have lost him altogether. Okay, we'll try and get him back. He is on a moving bus, so it does make it a little bit different. Just a message that I've gotten in, and it says, I'm originally from Cape Town, and this gay man is playing the race card, playing the gay card, full of rubbish. We have more rights in South Africa than in Europe. With a population of 54 million, he can easily move to other parts of South Africa and live happily. Would love to come on, but very busy in work. Heard it loads of times. I'm here to work for money, basically is what that message says. And basically what he is saying is you can be gay in South Africa and live. In fact, he's saying that we have better rights in South Africa than we do, than gay people do here in Ireland. Even though we have complete equality here in Ireland, they do in South Africa as well. Now, I have been reading about the amount of attacks, homophobic attacks on gay people, including rape and murder. And we're asking basically whether or not the department is right to reject this man's appeal for asylum here in Ireland. He is afraid of going back to South Africa because he is afraid that he will be killed or raped or worse if he returns to South Africa. And we're just trying to get him back on the phone. As I said, he's on a moving bus now. Bulelani, sorry, I was just reading a message while you were cut off there from a guy who is from Cape Town, and he says that in South Africa you can live quite happily as a gay person. What do you say to that?
Well, I haven't had a very happy experience. I've lived in Cape Town for 14 years. I haven't had a very happy life that you imagined I would have. And there are people who have been murdered in Cape Town on the basis of their sexual orientation. In fact, one of them was actually an Irish aid worker who met his killer from Grindr. Was murdered last year, actually.
Yes, and I recall that case. Let me ask you then, do you believe that gay discrimination or fear of homophobic attacks should be a sufficient reason for the Irish government to grant you leave to stay in this country?
The international human rights law on refugees is governed by one principle, one underlying core principle, and that is the principle of non-refoulement. The Republic of Ireland has an obligation to ensure that it does not return a person to any country where they may face persecution on any basis, either between race, gender, or religious views or political views, or membership of a particular social group. I have submitted to the Irish Department of Justice and Equality that I would, in fact, face the same persecution if returned to South Africa. There was a point where I was deprived of my liberty, where I was held against my will in the Republic of South Africa. That incident alone in itself qualifies for refugee status, because if somebody deprives you of your personal liberty and the state has not done anything to protect you against that you can claim protection in another state. That's why we have refugee law to begin with.
Okay, I think of countries like Russia or many countries around the world where gay rights aren't protected in law, and in fact there is active discrimination against the gay community in a country like Russia, or in a country like Brunei, where they actually have anti-gay laws.
Yep.
Do you believe that anybody who is gay from anywhere in the world that faces discrimination should be allowed to come and stay in Ireland?
Anybody who faces persecution anywhere in the world can travel to another state and seek protection elsewhere. That's why we have the law, international human rights law, to protect people against persecution.
So yes is the answer to my question then?
Yes, it is.
Anybody who is from a country that faces homophobic discrimination
faces persecution.
Persecution, as they do in many countries around the world, they should all be welcomed with open arms here in Ireland.
Not just in Ireland, in any country where they feel they may be safe.
Okay, now let me just go back to your country of South Africa, and I mentioned a couple of moments ago that there is, the laws in South Africa are very progressive in terms of the LGBT community, almost identical, not quite, but almost identical to Irish laws. I want to just play a little bit of audio from the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, who was speaking recently. Just have a listen to this.
Sure.
Tolerate discrimination against any person on the basis of their sexual orientation or gender identity. The violation of the rights and equal worth of lesbians, of gay people, bisexual, transgender, or intersex people demeans our common humanity as South Africans. It is our responsibility as a nation to dedicate every moment to eradicating all forms of racism, of sexism, of tribalism, homophobia, and other intolerances.
Now, what I would say to you, Bulelani, is you would struggle, for example, to hear somebody like Vladimir Putin making a similar speech in Russia.
Yeah, of course you would, but that doesn't mean that people aren't persecuted in South Africa. In fact, that's one of the things he highlights in his speeches. He's speaking out against targeted violence against LGBT plus people. We've had similar speeches before from South African presidents. He's not the first president to speak on this matter. And still, the violence still persists. A speech does not in any way stop a person from killing another person.
Okay, now let me ask you, your asylum has been rejected. You got a letter from the Department of Justice. What did the letter say?
The letter actually pointed out that the president had made a speech against targeted violence against LGBT plus people. And they also mentioned the point that I would seek protection from the police. And there are LGBT plus people who have been experienced targeted violence, who have sought protection from the South African police and were failed by the police. In fact, one of the incidents, the police laughed at one transgender woman who was raped, who was gang raped, and went to the police and to report the incident. So the idea that I should go and subject myself to that if anything happens to me is ludicrous. When you consider
okay, so are you saying that if you were attacked as a gay man in South Africa, or raped or killed for that matter, the police wouldn't be on your side?
It's unlikely that they would be, based on experiences of other LGBT plus people who have experienced violence against. And in fact, they haven't protected the 20,000 people who were murdered in just 12 months. 40,000 people were raped in the same period of 12 months. So how can I go in and seek protection from the same police force, which admittedly is unable to protect life and property in South Africa, which is their constitutional duty?
Okay, is there a risk, and would perhaps the thinking of the department be that to grant you asylum based on your sexual preference would open the floodgates to anybody to arrive in Ireland and say, I'm gay, I'm being persecuted, I want to be able to stay?
There are LGBT plus asylum seekers in Ireland who have been granted protection coming from many countries around the world, who have been granted protection. In fact, they have granted, in 2017, they granted 10 South Africans with subsidiary protection. Subsidiary protection is given to persons who faces serious harm if returned to their own country. So that it's not a thing that already happens. The problem with Ireland is that they have refused to grant protection to many people who have in fact come from countries such as Zimbabwe, where that one of which you quoted, my friend is a bisexual woman from Zimbabwe. They refused to grant her protection because one day they said they don't believe that she is bisexual. So another young man from Zimbabwe who was 19 when he came and claimed asylum, and they don't believe that he's gay. And the only reason they don't believe that he's gay is because he didn't belong to an LGBT plus support group. And there are Irish people who are openly gay.
But Lani, it would appear to me that if there was to be, and I understand some people have been granted asylum on the basis of their sexuality, but wouldn't it open the floodgates that people could just arrive in Ireland and say, I'm gay? And they may not even be gay.
The responsibility lies with the Irish state to, if a person comes to Ireland and claims protection, they will process through the International Protection Office, and they would have to establish that well-founded fear of persecution. And it doesn't open the floodgates. People have been claiming asylum on the basis of sexual orientation in many countries, not just Ireland, in many of the EU countries. And some of them have made appalling decisions, just like the Irish government has, on cases where people have been asked to prove their sexual orientation. How do you expect me to go in and prove my sexual orientation? Luckily for me, I wasn't asked for that, but there are people who have been asked for that. Does a person go in and prove that they are gay? Are they going to give them a handsome letter to check in front of the International Protection Officer?
Okay, Bulelani, stay on the line there for 1 second because I have to take a very quick commercial break. Barry and Alan, I'll take your calls in a moment. And if you want to throw your tuppence worth into this, you can call us on 6797 981. You can text, WhatsApp or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98.
Dublin Talks with Buy Local, because smarter shopping supports us all. 98FM.
This is Adrian Kennedy. We're in the middle of a conversation with a man called Bulelani, who is from South Africa. He's been living in Ireland since 2015 and has been told that his application for asylum here in Ireland has been rejected. He now has 15 days to appeal the decision and plans to fight it. He says that as a gay man, if he returns to South Africa, his life will be in danger. Let me play this WhatsApp voice note from Dermot, who has visited Cape Town before.
Adrian, I'd love to come on, but I'm a bit busy. I'm a bit baffled by this because as a visitor to Cape Town, I was there for 6 days in total before I travelled around the Garden Route. I did witness a lot of gay people about, predominantly lesbian. There was a lot, not that it bothered me or anything, but it baffles me that this fella would feel threatened because it is very open there, and I would even say more open than in Dublin. That's just my opinion from a visitor. Thank you.
Okay, now Bulelani, what do you say to that? That from what he witnessed, the gay community seems to be much more open than even here in Dublin.
I wish I had that lived experience in South Africa. I lived in Cape Town for about 14 years, and I'd lived in the Eastern Cape before, and I have made submissions into the Department of Justice which clearly substantiate my claims. That I had in fact been attacked on the basis of my sexual orientation before. And in international human rights law, if you have been attacked before, they would have to look at the future. So if they return you, there be a risk of a similar attack happening. And the claim that, of course, on my behalf is that such incidents would happen. There is no guarantee that it would not happen.
Okay, let me go to Barry. You're on 98FM. How are you, Barry?
Morning, Adrian.
Good morning, Barry. What did you want to say?
No, it's just, I'm a bit confused. Like, he said that he's in fear, and if he goes back to South Africa, he's in fear of being raped or murdered or whatever because of his sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he went 2 years ago, he went back for a holiday. And then if I left Ireland because he was afraid of being raped or murdered by being here, You wouldn't get me back. A team of wild horses wouldn't drag me back. I said he wouldn't come back for a holiday.
Well, Bululani, what do you say to that?
Can you say it for me, because I couldn't get his accent, sorry.
He's basically saying you went back to South Africa for a holiday,
Yes.
Is that right?
Not for a holiday, no. I had business to take care in South Africa that was urgent. And when I did go back, I did say this, and I told the International Protection Office that a lesbian girl was murdered while I was in there, and another couple was murdered after I had, in fact, applied for asylum. So the idea that I went back... And
when was the last time you were in South Africa?
Come again?
When
in
was
2017.
In 2017.
That's when I submitted the application.
Okay, but Barry's point is that if you were so fearful of what might happen to you in South Africa, you'd never go back.
I never intended to go. I never wanted to go back, but I had legal problems that I needed to go back to. Otherwise, the Republic of Ireland would have rejected my claim anyway if I hadn't sorted those legal problems out. But it forced me to get back to South Africa.
Okay, on what basis are you appealing the decision to deport you?
Because it's not to deport, it's not there yet, but it might go there. I'm appealing on the basis that the decision undermines the principle of non-refoulement. The Republic of Ireland cannot conclude that the South African Police Service is in any position to protect anyone in the Republic of South Africa when they have had 20,000 people killed in just 12 months. And 40,000 people murdered. And in fact, the South African police has had to get help from the military. And that's...
Okay, so your point is that the South African police are so busy with the murder rate, for example, which is one of the highest in the world, that they have no time to protect the gay community, basically.
They're not going to assign me with bodyguards when I arrive at the airport.
Okay, stay there for a moment. Alan, you're on 98 FM. Hi, Alan.
Oh, Adrian, how are you?
Good, thanks, Alan. What did you want to say?
I'm just too busy laughing at that. What do you want, personal protection from the police service? No country will offer you personal protection from the police service, not even in this country. So this is a nonsense excuse. And I'll take you back to 2016. There was a case in Portlaoise where an African man claimed asylum in this country based on he was a Christian coming from a Muslim country. Mm-hmm. That was turned down because it was right. He then came back and appealed based on being gay coming from a Muslim country. And in between that decision being taken, he went and raped an Irish woman. So this is just, sexuality is now being used as the next excuse for people to stay in this country. And I'm sorry, it's not down to me or any other person in this country to protect someone because of their sexuality when our government says, no, you've no right to be here.
But Alan, but hang on for 1 second. We happen to live in a country where, yes, we do still have a degree of homophobia. I know we had a story on this show a couple of weeks ago about a gay guy being attacked, but it is few and far between now that people who are gay will be attacked. In South Africa, there is a big problem. There is a big problem of the gay community being attacked. I was reading some shocking stories earlier on about what happens in South Africa to the gay community. Is it wrong of our government to send somebody back to that?
No, it's not. It's not. So there's an issue in India with raping of minors. Should we now accept every minor from India into this country? No, we shouldn't. So we cannot be burdened with every single sad case or pretend sad case there is in the world. The fact is this sexuality is now being used as an excuse. This is the next excuse that people are using. So he's saying, he keeps complaining with Irish law. Will he now do the right thing and respect Irish law when he is told to leave this country?
Well, no, my understanding is he's appealing the decision.
So after he's appealing, he's been told, and if it gets refused, will he now respect this country and leave this country and respect the laws of this country?
Well, he'd have no option if his appeal is ultimately turned down. He'll be taken to the airport and put in an airplane.
No, that's not how it works.
That's not what happens. That's not what happens.
Well, okay, sorry. Go on, Bululani. What did you want to say there?
He's saying that I should respect Irish law. In fact, it's not just the issue of refugees and asylum is not governed by just Irish law. It's also governed by international law. International law requires that Ireland makes sure that a person, before he's sent back to the country, they would not face serious harm if they return to their home country of origin. And that is a principle that guides international human rights law in every country that processes asylum claims. So there is an option to take the application on judicial review if I'm not happy with the appeal. their appeal. The idea that then people should not be even coming to Ireland to seek protection because they are sexually is nonsensical. Because one, the Department of Justice accepted that I am a gay man. They did not dispute that part. They accepted that I am a South African. They did not dispute that part. The only dispute is that I should go in and seek protection from the South African police, which is absolutely impractical.
Okay, yes, of course it is. We'll stay there for a moment. Natasha, you're also from South Africa, is that right?
I am, yeah. I'm living here 17 years now. And the thing is, violence in South Africa at the moment is at an all-time high across the board. So whether you're gay, straight, white, brown, child, anyone is a victim of crime and violence. I mean, every day I follow pages upon pages on Facebook seeing how people are raped, murdered and terrorised and tortured by their fellow South Africans.
Okay, so your point is that life is fairly tough in South Africa anyhow, whether you're gay or straight.
Yeah.
And... Okay, Bulelani's argument is that as a member of the gay community, he is more likely to be targeted, he is more likely to be attacked.
I can understand culturally that in the black community, I understand that it is it's harder for them to accept. I don't know whether it's a cultural thing or what it is. I do agree with that, but I don't, there's gay people all over the world that's being kicked out of their houses, being abused, being ostracized, being told that they're less than human. I mean, then the whole world should be seeking asylum. It's just, I do feel sorry for him, but the thing is, the violence in South Africa is on hold on. Anybody can walk out the door. It doesn't matter who you are, and you will be attacked. Yes, he might be at a slightly higher risk, but then so are everybody else. They don't discriminate.
Okay, well then let me ask you, as a South African, do you believe that the fear of homophobic attack in South Africa is a good enough reason for the Irish government to allow him to stay here?
No.
Okay, and
because then the whole gay community will have to seek asylum in South Africa. I mean, I have family members who are gay, both here in Ireland and in South Africa. I mean, it's if they go out, say if they were going out on a parade, obviously it wouldn't be safe because South Africa in general is not a safe place, and they will be targeted because they would be targets just like anywhere else in the world. I mean, if you're different than anybody else and people don't agree with you, you're going to be a victim of
but in answer to my question, is it a good enough reason for the government to allow?
No, because
okay, Bulelani,
But he went home. He went home for a holiday in 2017. So if he was in fear of going back, that alone tells the government, listen, he went back on a holiday, so he's obviously not that scared. That's just my opinion.
Bulelani, what do you say to that?
I did submit earlier that, in fact, I provided evidence that somebody was murdered while I was there and after I had left. Secondly, that people who are persecuted in the world, or even war-torn countries, don't all flee. There are people living in Syria, and Syria is at war. And there are women who are persecuted in Saudi Arabia, and they didn't all flee. There are gay people who are persecuted in Russia. They know they are persecuted and they could be killed, and they have legitimate reasons to claim asylum. They do not all flee because the decision to leave everything that is familiar to you is not taken lightly by anyone fleeing to another country. So there are people who they had gay pride in Russia, and they still got attacked anyway. So the idea that because we are able to wave around the rainbow...
But with the greatest respect to you, Bulelani, is South Africa has much more progressive laws than Russia would have, and indeed in Russia they have anti-gay laws against the promotion of homosexuality and everything else. You're comparing apples to oranges here.
I said it earlier, and I said it to the Irish government as well. Law is written text. It's just text on ink, and is ink on a piece of paper in law libraries, if divorced from the lived experience of the people that are meant to protect.
Okay, let me just read a message that's just come in. from Aoife. She says, are these people for real? You're literally sending this man back to receive the death sentence. There's so many Irish abroad illegally, and I guarantee these people would have no problem with Irish being abroad illegally. Have people lost their humanity? Imagine how his family would feel if he was killed. At least he is safe here, says Aoife. Bululani, you're willing to contribute to Irish society, obviously, if you're allowed to stay here.
Of course. I've lived in both South Africa and in here, studied both in South Africa and here, and I've worked in South Africa and here. I believe that I've always been taken interest in the development in any community that I live in. So I don't see that I would in any way. The only grounds for serious removal of a person from the state should always be based on national security, and I don't think I'm a threat to national security.
All right, let me just play a couple of WhatsApp voice notes before we wrap this up. This one is from Cindy.
Adrian, asylum or refugee status is supposed to be granted by the country that they first land in, and there's no direct flights, as far as I know, from South Africa to here. So, I beg the question, why Ireland then? Really, why Ireland?
Okay, here's a message from Robbie.
Adrian, I pity that man and have a lot of sympathy for him if that is the case when he goes down to South Africa. But he needs to realise that our government cannot let him stay in this country just because he's gay. If that's the case, every asylum seeker will be turning up to the government building saying, I'm gay, I can't go home or I'll be murdered. Do you know what I mean? Come on.
And Bululani, it is something that I did say, that it could open the floodgates to people saying, I'm gay, I can't live in my own country. And I think of people from countries like Russia, that this could be an instant reason to be granted asylum.
It isn't an instant reason because it is incumbent on the applicant to submit, substantiate their claim that they have a well-founded fear of persecution. So it doesn't open the floodgates as such.
Okay.
The first one that I think what was the first caller again?
Oh, Cindy, she was basically saying, why Ireland?
The law that says you should seek asylum in the first country of landing only applies to EU member states. I did not travel to any other EU country except for the Republic of Ireland. The first country that I transited to was Ethiopia, and I couldn't exactly go to Ethiopia and say...
right, so you flew to Ireland from Ethiopia?
Yeah.
With Ethiopian Airlines?
Ethiopia,
Right, okay. And one final message from one of your fellow countrymen.
I grew up in South Africa and I travel there every year. The gay people aren't necessarily persecuted much more than any other community. The problem in South Africa is crime, and your previous caller about Cape Town was absolutely correct. Cape Town is very open to the gay and lesbian community. I had lots of gay and lesbian friends when I was there, and they were more than comfortable there. There is no way that somebody should be claiming persecution on that basis. The persecution is a crime persecution. It has nothing to do with the gay and lesbian community who are persecuted by some entities of the population from time to time, but the law does protect them.
And one final voice note from Agna.
I think that if it's possible to save his life, like if his life is in danger, like we all should do whatever it takes to save him, even if it means letting him stay here. I think that's what all the human beings should do for each other. So I think he should be able to stay here.
All right, thank you very much indeed. And Bululani, we're going to keep in touch with you. You've a meeting with a solicitor today to discuss appealing the deportation order, and you will be... We're going to keep in touch with you and see how you get on.
All right, thanks.
And best of luck to you. Thanks very much indeed for talking to us.
Cheers, and bye.
And that is Bululani. It's an interesting story because it does kind of show some of the reasons that people come to this country to seek asylum, and whether or not you believe that those reasons are justified. You're listening to 98fm's Dublin Talks. This is Adrian Kennedy with you until midday today. Now, after the break, why are Irish people still using their mobile phones while driving? We've some shocking figures for you next.
Dublin Talks with Buy Local, because smarter shopping supports us all. 98 FM.
Do you want to be honest with me. And the reason I say that is, do you use your phone while you're on the roads? Because 2/3, this is really shocking actually, 2/3 of Irish motorists admit to using their mobile phone while driving, according to a new international survey. A quarter of those surveyed said their phone is one of the biggest distractions to them while they're out on the road. Now get a load of this figure. 61% of Irish drivers admit to glancing at incoming texts and or calls on their phone while driving. At red lights, more than 1 in 3 say that they read emails and texts, while 21% admitted to using social media apps such as Facebook and Instagram, or even dating apps while they're stopped. So I want you to be honest with me. Do you use your phone while on the roads? Has it become the norm? Do you think people are afraid of being caught? Because it would appear to me that they're not. I had an incident the other day where I was pulling out of my driveway onto the main road, and out of nowhere, right up my arse, came an articulated truck. And he had to slam on his brakes. Now, I was out on the road already, but he hurried up the road, and when I looked in my mirror, there he was, buried into his mobile phone, driving a 40-foot. And I would have reported him, only I didn't. He was driving behind me, so I couldn't see the name of the company that he was working for. Anyhow, the question is, do you use your phone while on the roads? And if you do you consider yourself a danger on the roads? Because it would appear that you wouldn't be doing it if you thought you were a danger. Call me right now on 6797 981. Text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. I'm joined by the Senior Media Officer for AA Roadwatch, Barry Aldworth. Barry, welcome to 98 FM.
Good morning, how are you?
Barry, 61% of Irish drivers using their phones while they're driving. Shocking figures, aren't they?
It's certainly a worrying figure, and I think one of the key words in that statement is that these are the people who admit to doing it.
Correct, yes.
So you probably have another cohort who are guilty of using their phone while behind the wheel and won't admit to doing it and think, well, as long as I don't say out loud that I'm doing it, I'm not really doing it.
And yeah, I think you're dead right. I actually believe the figure is higher than 61%.
I think so. I think it's something we regularly come across reports of. I think it's something that any road user, whether you are another driver, whether you're a pedestrian, a cyclist, whatever your chosen mode of transport is, it's one of the ongoing frustrations that we all have, that you see a car behind you or at lights next to you and they are sitting there on the phone distracted, and it's not just the danger they pose to themselves by the fact that they're not concentrating on the task at hand, it's the danger that they pose to all other road users, particularly the most vulnerable ones like your motorcyclists, pedestrians, cyclists.
So why have people become so casual about this? It has become socially unacceptable to drink and drive, and people don't do it certainly as much as they used to. The message has actually gotten through. Why do you think people are so casual about this one?
I think, unfortunately, there's a couple of contributing factors. So, number one, I think, again, people, and this is a persistent frustration and something which I don't know what the solution to it is, but people underappreciate how dangerous driving is because a lot of people will do it regularly. So they think, look, I'm used to doing this. It's not that dangerous. But if you break it down to its most basic form, driving is pushing yourself into about a ton of metal and hurtling down a road at 60, 70, 80 kilometres an hour. So it is an exceptionally dangerous thing, but because of how frequently we do it, we underappreciate that risk. The other factor which I think does contribute here, and I'm not blaming the Gardaí for this, but Garda resources, particularly Garda resources for traffic policing, have been cut quite significantly in recent years now. They've started to bounce back, but the result of that is people feel they are less likely to see a guard out on the road. They're less likely to be caught, and you have this cohort who are willing to take a risk if they feel that the punishment and the risk of being caught isn't there.
Do we have any statistics to show whether or not people are using their phones while they're involved in accidents?
It's not something that I have readily available information on, but I think it's something that the RSA have previously highlighted as a contributing factor to accidents. And I know that there have been studies done globally which have found that a driver who is using their phone is as dangerous behind the wheel as a drunk driver. But for some reason, a lot of people don't seem to see those two behaviours as equal
the same thing,
as equally dangerous.
Because I was talking to somebody earlier on who was involved in a fairly serious car crash a couple of weeks ago, and the guards arrived at the scene, and neither he nor the other driver was ever asked, were you using your mobile phone? So where they were both breathalyzed.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point, and I think it's something maybe we need to start policing more strictly, and need to see, how we get rid of this behaviour. But beyond what the Gardaí can do, beyond what road safety organisations can do, there is also an element here of people need to take responsibility for their own personal behaviour. And to be fair to the RSA, ourselves, other organisations working in road safety, many campaigns highlighting the dangers of this have been carried out in recent years, and I'm sure there are going to be more coming down the pipeline. But it is just a message that people, maybe it's because of the fact that our lives are now so entangled with our phone, people seem to be willing to take that risk, whereas you do need to really start looking at your own behaviour when you're behind the wheel, and not only the effect it can have on yourself, you can find yourself in an accident, but you can also put other road users in danger as well.
People have an issue with dealing with this, and I'll give you an example. If I got a message in from somebody saying my brother drives drunk every day of the week, that person would probably take action. But I got a message in a second ago and it says, my brother-in-law drives about 40 miles a day and spends more time looking at his phone than the road. Yet that person doesn't seem to do anything about it. Where if he was driving drunk every day, that person probably would do something about it.
I think that's one of the hurdles here, that we need to kind of bridge that gap where these two behaviours are seen as not equal, or that, one is lesser than the other. They are both equally dangerous. They're both equally irresponsible. They put every other road user who happens to be on the road while you're driving at risk. And again, how we bridge that gap, I'm not sure is the honest answer.
It really is a difficult one, because we have had many campaigns about using your mobile phones and very graphic adverts of car crashes happening as a result of somebody looking at their phone and all of that. So the message is out there, but people just aren't taking it seriously.
I think so, and I think unfortunately what you tend to see with a lot of people is it's only when they have a near miss or a collision as a result of being distracted by their phone that they then have that moment of realisation of, oh, I really shouldn't be using this while I'm driving. And we can't wait for every single motorist who is using their phone behind the wheel to have that near miss or crash. So more needs to be done. Obviously, I think something that we need to see, and we need to see this backed by government as well, is increasing Garda resources so that they can police this behaviour more effectively. They're doing what they can with the resources they have, but I think for a lot of people, until they have that near miss, or more importantly, they see a penalty points notice come in the letterbox, I think it's going to take something like that to get people to really cop on when it comes to this.
Okay, do we need to get, finally Barry, do we need to get more serious and start issuing bans, road bans? For example, if you're caught drink driving, you will get an automatic ban off the road. Should the same not apply to somebody who's caught by the Gardaí using their mobile phone?
It's something to consider, but I think where we need to be kind of honest with ourselves here is our statute book when it comes to road safety law is actually amongst the strongest in the world. We have good punishment, but you can come up with in fairness, where
it comes to using your mobile phone, you'll get a fixed penalty and 3 penalty points. That's not really a deterrent, is it?
It may not sound like much, but
if it's something that is as bad as drink driving.
You would be surprised, firstly, to take the point about the penalty points, you'd be surprised how effective penalty points are in changing behaviour, that when people get if you get
up to 9 penalty points, you might start taking it seriously. The point I'm making is there is a fear that if you drink drive, you will be banned off the road instantly. With driving with your mobile phone, it's not as severe.
I think before we go down the route of an instant ban for driving with your phone, it's more about having Gardaí out there. You can have a harsh punishment. You come up with the harshest punishment imaginable, but if people feel that they're not going to be caught, that punishment really doesn't enter their mind.
Okay, so we need to start catching more people for people to start getting the message.
I think so. I think we need more Gardaí out there. They need to be given the resources and the manpower to do their job. And
do we not also need to get that message through that driving and using your mobile phone is as serious as drink driving?
Absolutely. I think there's going to be more campaigns highlighting the dangers of driving while using a phone, and I think that's one of the avenues that those campaigns are going to have to take, that they're going to have to try to put these behaviours in people's minds as being equal.
Barry Aldworth, Senior Media Officer with AA Roadwatch, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And I'd love to hear from you on 6797 981. Text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. Do you think we should have a serious clampdown? Because, Chloe, I'm going to talk to you after the break, and you see a lot of people on their phones in your estate where there's a really bad bend.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time?
Yeah.
So they're not getting the message?
No.
Okay, stay there for a second, Chloe. I'd like to hear from you. 6797 981. Text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. And if you are that soldier, if you are that person who uses your mobile phone, explain to me why. We're back in a second. It's 11 o'clock across Dublin City and County. Good morning, this is Adrian Kennedy. You're with 98fm's Dublin Talks. And Trish is here with Wednesday's top headlines.
Thanks, Adrian. A major investigation's underway after 3 alleged serious sexual assaults in Wexford at the weekend. It's alleged the attacks took place on 3 girls at around 12:15am near Courtown Harbour in Gorey. Gardaí say they're investigating a serious and sensitive case. A man is due to appear in court in connection with the shooting of Alan O'Neill in Tallaght 4 years ago. The 35-year-old was seriously injured after being shot at Kiltalon in May 2015 and later died in hospital. A man in his 20s was arrested and charged by Gardaí this morning. Tusla says it had concerns regarding repeated breaches of compliance at a chain of Dublin creches before an RTE expose was aired. An undercover investigation highlighted a number of breaches in regulations at hide and seek childcare. And all 3 lanes in both directions of the newly upgraded M7 in Kildare are to be opened by Friday morning. A reduced speed limit of 80 kilometres an hour will be in place, but the long delays motorists have been experiencing are set to ease. And now up to date on 98.
98fm's Dublin Talks with Adrian Kennedy.
So, shocking new figures have shown that 61% of Irish drivers admit to glancing at incoming texts and or calls on their phone while they're driving. At red lights, more than 1 in 3 say they read emails and texts, while 21% admitted to using social media apps such as Facebook and Instagram, or even dating apps while they are stopped. And we want to find out why. Why are people continuing to do this? Why are people not getting the message that it is dangerous? Now, Thomas has a theory.
Hey, Adrian, it's Thomas there. Adrian, be honest with you, I don't use my phone while I'm driving, but I drive a lot every single day. And what I spotted is for 10 drivers of using a phone, there is 8 of them are women. So basically, girls behind the wheels, they're not supposed to be use the phone because they can't concentrate to do 2 things, driving and they use the phone. So that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Now, Chloe, you were saying that in your estate, people are using their phones an awful lot on a bad bend.
Exactly. I live on the bad bend, and the amount of times I see them flying around the corner, phone either texting or in their hand on talking to somebody. Now, we have little kids in the area who are only learning how to cross roads. It's an accident waiting to happen.
And as a matter of interest, you heard that man's message. He believes it's more women are at fault than men. In fact, a woman passed our office yesterday in a big, huge Jeep with 2 kids in the back seat, and she had her mobile phone in her hand as she was driving. Do you think it's more women than men?
I think it's a mixture of both. I mean, I've seen a lot more men actually coming around the corner to the men I've seen, but women do it as well. I mean, I think it's probably a mix, probably equal amounts in my view. But I don't know. But I mean, where I've seen them, it's a lot of men, young men, who are doing it.
And are these people that are talking on their phones or looking at their phones, or both?
Both.
Right, so they have their phone up to their ear, they're looking at the phone in terms of reading messages or sending texts or whatever.
Yeah.
And, okay, in terms of have you seen any near misses involving people doing what you're talking about?
I saw one near miss. The car was coming down as they were speeding up, and there'd be people parked outside their houses on one side, and the car coming around can't see the cars coming down, and they have to slam on the brakes. And how they didn't hit each other, I don't know.
So, yes, as a result of people using their phones, you have seen near misses.
I have.
Okay, stay there for 1 second. 6797 981 is our telephone number. Text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. Elsie's point, and this is something actually I want to have a conversation about another day. Elsie says that phones are basically like drugs to people.
I think there's an even bigger picture going on here that people aren't realising, is that people are addicted to their mobile phones. So if it goes off, if it beeps, if it makes a noise, if it vibrates, or if it rings when you're driving your car, the addiction takes over. So it's like a drug. How to stop people being addicted is something altogether different. I don't know. I think you're battling something more serious here than you realise.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And in fact, as I said, it's a conversation that I want to have maybe later on in the week about phone addiction and the amount of time that people are spending on their phones. And that time, obviously, is being used up when they're in the car as well. Derek, you're on 98 FM. How are you, Derek?
How are you doing, all right?
Good, thanks, Derek. Now, you believe that we do need to start getting really serious about this, the way in which we have done about drink driving.
Yeah, 100%. If you're calling your phone by the guard, drink driving, you get a penalty point, you get a ban. Should be the same for a mobile phone. The amount of rear-end crashes, because I'm on the road 24/7, the amount of rear-end crashes are from people with a mobile phone between the lap, looking down, sending a text, watching a video on Snapchat, on Facebook, all that shit. So basically that's the problem. And then even talking on the phone while they're driving sometimes distracts people. Like they're looking at their phone to see, oh there's another call coming in. Split second, you're up someone's arse in their car. You might do damage to you or the person in front of you, but you've caused an accident, you've caused mayhem on the motorway, all because of a phone. I mean, surely you can pull over or whatever, make a call in a half an hour's time. I'll ring that person back later on. I'll put your phone on silent in your handbag or in your glove box thing. I'll ring you back in a half an hour, no panic. If you haven't got hands free.
Okay, so you believe that we're not serious enough about this. As I said, you can get a fixed penalty notice and 3 penalty points if you're caught using your phone. However, if you're caught with just maybe a pint in your system or a pint and a half, you will get an automatic driving ban for 3 months. Do you think...
If you're caught with drinking your system the next morning, even though you thought that you've done your 10 hours sleep and you're panicking on a checkpoint, shit, did I have enough sleep last night? You're not going to get a proper 10-hour sleep. It's like there's a fine out now for a dog shit in the grass. I mean, they're clapping down on that, they're trying to put more bills on. It should be the same with a mobile phone while driving. It's a weapon in your hand while they're driving. The amount of cars on the road at the moment now is unbelievable because the employment is flying up. People are buying new cars. Young people are buying new cars and all hands-free. And even if they have hands-free, they're still texting on their phone. They're still Facebooking. They're still selfieing on the phone while driving.
So, in terms of mobile phone use, you believe, and this is what we were saying earlier on, it is as dangerous as drink driving, so the law needs to reflect that.
The law needs to reflect it. Put the same on the same. I was caught once about 10 years ago down in Newbridge, and I regret it. I got 2 penalty points because the chap beside me wouldn't take the call, and I took the call, and the And I said to the guards, you know what? I was spot on. You were right. I got me 2 penalty points, right? And I got rid of them. I've no penalty points now. But I won't drive with my hand, with the phone in my hand. I'll leave it there. I'll bring them back later on when I'm pulled in with a copy or something. People can't say, the only place you can't pull in is on the M50. You're not going to be on the M50 for a whole hour. You know what I mean? You can pull out in a hand.
You could be, and what about people who, and this is something else that's in these statistics, at red lights, more than 1 in 3 people say that they read emails and texts, while 21% admitted to using social media apps like Facebook and Instagram or even dating apps while they're stopped. Is being stopped a good enough reason to do it?
No, you should be concentrating your red light. You could be looking at your phone, next while you'll see green. It might be your green light, it might be a green light on the opposite side of the road, it could be a green man, then you decide to take off and there's a person crossing the road, good luck. Because you know the traffic light's on a junction. You have to be careful, like which one is my one, you know what I mean?
Okay, stay there for 1 second, Derek. Derek believes we should have a 3-month ban, just like we do for drink driving, if you're caught using your mobile phone. Whether that's at a traffic lights or on the M50, if you're caught by the Gardaí, a 3-month ban. That'd make you stop, wouldn't it? Because, according to the figures, 61% of Irish drivers are continuing to do it. So the penalties that we have now, which is a fine and 3 penalty points, just isn't... People aren't paying attention to that. People obviously reckon it's worth the risk. You're not going to get caught. But if you thought, if you get caught, you're going to get banned off the road for 3 months, then you'd start taking it seriously, wouldn't you? Carl, you also believe that it's mostly women and older men who are on their phones.
That's right, Adrian. Every time I've been driving around, and I used to work in insurance for a long while, most claims or most things were always due to women and older men. The reason I rang up is because I'm sick of people saying, oh, young drivers. Young drivers have an awful lot to lose. Young drivers have an awful lot to lose. Like, they've got, like, higher insurance, penalty points. Like, it's harder to get on the road now than it was, say, 10, 15 years ago for younger people. Like, when I'm driving around, I do see, like, people in articulated lorries or work vans or even older women, not even young women, older women on their phones, like.
So, okay, we heard from Derek. He believes we should have a ban. We should have an outright ban on mobile phone use, and that means literally taking people off the road if they're caught. Would you agree with that?
A 3-month course, to be honest with you, because there's certain people, like older people, that like have their driving licence, but they've never set a theory test. They don't know what the engine is in their engine. They're driving like they're not driving up to standard, to be honest with you. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was an amnesty in 1987 or was it 86 to get your driving licence, a full driving licence, if you were driving for 7 minutes. So some of them even got driving licence without even doing the test.
Mm.
So there should be a 3-month course to make sure. Like, I'm deadly serious. I've seen crashes and it's older men and they just pull out. I don't know if it's because they think they've been driving so long or it's just arrogance. But they don't. They're not considerate. They're the ones that like just shoot out into the junction or straight through a roundabout. Do you know what I mean?
Mm. Okay, so do we need to start treating the use of mobile phones in as serious a way as we do drink driving?
And when I mean older, I mean like 65 plus. I don't mean like. I mean like really older men. Like they just. Do you know what I mean? And a penalty point is probably not enough for them because, to be honest with you, if you're in your mid-60s and you've gotten penalty points, does it really affect you? Like your insurance?
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, maybe not, I suppose. I mean? Yeah, but that's the point, that the penalties aren't enough. I work in a library, says this message, and I sit outside on my break. 60% of people are on their phone, says that message. And Tom has a suggestion to solve this problem.
Why don't they bring out a system where the very minute you get into your car that your phone is demobilised?
And a lot of people think that that's what should happen. As soon as you turn on the ignition, somehow your phone stops working. simple solution, isn't it? Mark has seen people doing other things while driving.
I was driving from Coolock to Bray, and I swear, no word of a lie, I saw somebody reading a book in the fast lane. What the F?
Yeah, what the F is right. Joey, you are a truck driver.
Yeah, I am.
And obviously, if you're on the road all day, every day, you see an awful lot of stuff on the roads.
Yeah, I tend to see more because I'm up higher, and when cars pull up beside me, I can see down into their cars, where a normal car beside wouldn't see that.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Now, I've seen people on the e-books, you know these e-books doing reading on their e-books?
Mm-hmm.
On the M50, eating a bowl of cornflakes, or whatever kind of cereal was in the bowl. I've seen people changing their shorts as they're driving down the road. The amount of people watching films on their phone, because I can literally look down and I see all of this on a daily basis. Every single day, I would see probably up to 100 to 150 people on phones, on iPads, on eating cereal, putting on makeup. You name it, I've seen it all. I've seen crashes. I've seen people rearing into other people, all on phones. I've seen the crashes before they happen because somebody's on the phone and they're taking a turn and bang, before you know it, they're gone. I've seen it every day and it's getting worse.
And why do you think people aren't getting the message? People have, well, not everybody, but a lot of people have gotten the message about drink driving.
The addiction, Adrian, how many times do you check your phone a day when you're not even driving?
Shocking amount of times, yeah.
Yeah, and that's an addiction. It's like smoking. They feel the need to pick the phone up and check it. Even if it doesn't ring, they pick it up and check it. It's an addiction, and it's just there, and it's always there. It's a habit. How you can't change that habit that you've picked up over the years. You can't change it. And when you're driving, they're automatically looking at your phone. One eye on the road, one eye on your phone. And that's every day. I've done it myself. I have an earpiece now in the ear that I use for driving. And I don't even need to pick the phone up. I press the button on the side of it and it comes through my earpiece if I need it in the truck. Right. And then in the car, I have the hand free.
Right, okay. So people aren't getting the message. How do we make them get the message? How do you get the message through to a truck driver like yourself? It wasn't you, obviously, who nearly ran me off the road the other day doing 100 on an 80-kilometre road with his phone in his hand. How do you get it through to that guy that, you shouldn't have your job?
Technology, Adrian. Basically what you do is, with this car, they have cars out there now that park themselves. All you have to do is when your engine gets turned on in your car, it sends out a signal that kills the signal on your phone. From internet, from Wi-Fi, from your bars on your phone for receiving calls. It's that easy. It's only a matter of putting a chip in your car. That's all it is. And when your car is stopped and you want to make a phone call, your car has to be turned on. That's how easy it is. Technology is there to do it. They won't do it because money will be lost. Simple. People won't buy a car that has that technology in it.
Okay,
picking up their phone.
Okay, do we need an automatic ban for people caught using their phone?
There's not 6 points on your licence first time. You're caught on the second time while you still have them points on your licence. You lose your licence for 12 months. Job done.
Okay, so double the amount of penalty points.
Well, no, if you get caught again, they're off the road for 12 months. And I guarantee you, like you have a drinking, I guarantee you, within 12 months, you'll see a major difference.
Okay, so double the amount of penalty points to 6, and if that means if you get caught once more, you're gone.
Yeah, one strike, you're gone. That's it. One done. They're giving these people chances 3 points, 3 points, 3 points. 4 times before you get the message. It shouldn't take you 4 times to realise you shouldn't be doing it. Do it once, get caught again, you're gone. End of story. Simple as that. And make everybody aware, you get caught again, you're off the road.
All right, no, that's not a bad suggestion. With 61% of drivers admitting that they are using their phones when they're driving, if you double the amount of penalty points, that might make people stop. A message just came in and it says, as a professional woman that has to drive for work at least 4 hours per day and then some for family, I agree phones are a major distraction for drivers and can cause serious damage. But I strongly believe the solution isn't to ignore that the mobile phone is part of everyone's personal and family life. Banning phones will be like banning cars. Computers or cards in these modern times. I think it would be much more useful if we can think laws to show people how they can safely use their phones while they're driving. You see, you can never safely use your phone to read texts or look at status updates on Facebook. You can never do that safely. And then, where am I going? I'm just going to one last call. Oh, sorry, Brendan, your point is that people are just too relaxed on the roads.
Yeah. Just back to that other driver there, typical, comes on the air and slates the truck drivers. It's not only truck drivers. I was just at Clonheader a while ago, and a cyclist watching the phone coming up to the lights and went straight through the lights.
Yeah, but see, that's just somebody on a suicide mission, in my opinion.
The pedestrians are the very same. It's just, as one caller said there, it's an addiction to mobile phones, iPads, that to be in contact looking at somebody else's rubbish and it's causing major accidents. It's not only the driver, it's the general public that the rules are too relaxed.
So what is the answer then? Is it a ban? Or is it 6 penalty points, as was suggested a second ago, which I think isn't a bad idea?
We have to start somewhere.
So maybe the 6 penalty points, and then you know, if you get caught again, assuming you've none on your licence at the moment, 6 penalty points, then you know if you're caught again, you're gone.
Well, yeah, and the same with cyclists. But there has to be a rule for everybody, across the board.
Okay, and finally, foreign car companies need to come up with a solution like what?
Hi, Adrian. Yes, I do agree with everybody that says there, but I do believe the car companies and the car manufacturers and the mobile operators, they should come with solution to, when you get in the car, just to have the option to receive and make phone calls through the Bluetooth without to use the data of the mobile. Do you know what I mean? Like, now I'm trying to make it as nice as possible. I was driving on the M50 a couple of times, and I've seen a lot of women doing the makeup while they're driving. And almost one time I just opened the window and I tried to tell her, and I got the big FF. Do you know what I mean? To mind my own business. You know, that way. So I do believe no data or the education of people, they have to be brought up kind of, especially the youngest people, which they are in school, they have to get educated to use the mobile phone, not to use and when to use it.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so we need to get that message through. Finally, a WhatsApp voice note from Anto, who called out a woman over her phone use.
Hi, Adrian. I was on the Navan Road coming down towards the M50 roundabout, coming from Blanchardstown, and this woman on my left kept drifting over into my lane and back over to her lane and into my lane. So when I passed her, I was doing 80 kilometres per hour and she was on her phone drifting around lanes. I loudly beeped the horn and she dropped her phone. But, like, there was a truck behind her, there was a bus in front of her. You know, I was in my lane, watching what I was doing, and could have caused a major accident before that junction. Like, this stuff is crazy.
It is. All right. Well, look, it's a conversation we will come back to. And another conversation that I want to come back to later on in the week is that point that was made a while ago about phone addiction, that we have a major, major problem with people and their addiction to their phones. And something that I want to talk about maybe later on in the week is the amount of screen time that you devote to your phone. And I looked at mine earlier on, and I got the shock of my life, I'll be honest with you, with the amount of time that I spend on the screen of my phone. Let's talk about that maybe tomorrow. This is 98FM's Dublin Talks. I'm Adrian Kennedy. And here in the studio with me is Mr. Jeremy Dixon. Good morning.
Good morning. And you just dragged me in because I have blonde hair, because this part of the show that we do at the same time every week It's blonde moments. This is where we get you to reveal the silly, stupid, blonde moment things that either a family member have said, a friend have said, maybe you've said yourself, or your other half has said. So we get to shame those people at this time every single week. Like this one, and I'm going to name her. I don't normally name people, but I'm going to name the person today. Our Katie.
Oh, yeah.
Our Katie, who's on maternity leave at the moment. But I was talking to her last week and I was telling her that I had American relatives that were back in Ireland at the moment. They're holidaying in Ireland at the moment. And she said, where are your American relatives from? And I said, they're from Pennsylvania. And she said, Pennsylvania? Oh my God, I've always wanted to go there. And I said, why? Because Dracula's castle is there and I'd love to see Dracula's castle.
No, Katie, Dracula's castle is in Transylvania.
Complete.
Not
it's
Pennsylvania.
Nowhere near Pennsylvania.
No, it couldn't be any further away. Right, okay, that was her blonde moment. What is your blonde moment? That time you said something stupid and you realised, And for sharing your story with us, we have passes for IMC Cinemas to give away. Just for the most ridiculous blonde moment ever. Call us right now on 6797 981. Text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. Quick break. Back in a second.
Dublin Talks with Buy Local. Because smarter shopping supports us all. 98FM.
And this is Adrian, and that man there is Jeremy. And it is time for you to share with us. I love doing this, actually, because we've all had one. We want you to share with us your blonde moment. Like the time that our Katie said to Jeremy, so your friends from Pennsylvania are over. Oh, very nice. Oh,
yeah.
I'd love to go.
Did they know Dracula? But she didn't say that.
I'd love to go there. I'd love to visit Dracula's castle.
Now, somebody just texted in to say, lads, why are you making fun of that? Is that not where Dracula's from? No. Sorry, can I just bang my head for a sec? They're two separate places. Pennsylvania is in America.
Yes.
Pittsburgh is in Pennsylvania.
Correct.
Rocky was from Pennsylvania.
Correct.
Yeah. Transylvania is in Romania, in Europe.
Yeah.
That's where, what's the name of Dracula's castle called?
Is it not just Dracula's castle?
It probably is. That's where Dracula's castle is.
Okay, call us right now on 6797 981. Text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. Christy's girlfriend had a blonde moment.
Hey lads, blonde moment. I remember my missus and me were heading off abroad, and we were flying over Spain, and it was night time, and the missus turns to me and says, "Doesn't the moon look lovely?" And I was looking at it, I was like, "Where's the wind? Where's the moon?" I didn't know what she was looking at. She's like, "The moon, can you see the moon?" I was like, "No." She's like, "Right there." She says, "Look, it looks lovely." I said, "You mean the light on the wing of the plane?" She was like, "That's not the light." She says, "It's the moon." I says, "I'm telling you now, that's the light." It was only until we landed and the lights came on even stronger that she realised, maybe I am stupid. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Chris.
But that's the strobe light on the end of the wing.
Yeah, but there is a light that stays on as well.
Oh, there is a static light.
Darren, tell me about your mammy.
We were sitting down watching, myself and my dad were sitting down watching Ireland play. I think it was Italy or Cyprus or whatever. But Ireland scored, and the two of us were jumping around screaming. My mum came into the sitting room and she says, "What's all the screaming about?" And we says, "Ireland are at the score." And she says, "Oh, jeez, that's brilliant." She says, "Give John a ring and let him know." And we says, "John, is that the game?" She says, "Yeah, but aren't they an hour behind?"
What's this woman's first name? Just her first name.
Dinah.
What's her name?
Dinah.
That's brilliant. That is. So even though he was at the match, he's an hour behind, so he won't see the match for another hour. That's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. I love it. Thanks very much, Darren.
All right.
What is your blonde moment? Or, as is always the case, people seem to throw blonde moments at other people.
No one ever admits their own blonde moment, do they?
Well, let's find out. Gareth, tell me about your young fella.
How are you doing, Matt?
Good, Gareth.
We got my new telly last week, and when I brought it home, on the box, there was a picture of the telly with a tiger on it. But the picture was black and white, but the tiger's eyes were real bright blue.
Right, I know the exact telly. I actually have one myself.
Yeah, he come in and looked at it, and she was like, "Is it in black and white?" I said, "Yeah." you get blue now, and next week we're going to save up and we'll get you a yellow, and then the week after we'll get you red, and each week we'll add a new colour. And about 4 or 5 weeks you'll have a fully coloured teddy. And he's like, really? Really?
How old is he?
12.
12?
Yeah.
That's a bit of a blonde moment, all right. That's.
I swallow a brick, lad.
So
when are you getting the other colours for the telly?
Might happen by Christmas. A full HD.
Full HD by Christmas. Good story, Gareth. Thanks very much indeed. 6797981 is our telephone number. Text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98.
Now, can I give you this one? I find this so unbelievably stupid that I can't even believe it exists. It's from Paul. And he says, I have a friend called Cassie. Can you please give her a shout out? Hiya, Cassie. Cassie, I remember in history class when we were in school years ago, stood up in history class and was asked what Hitler's name was, his full name. She said his first name is Heil and his second name is Hitler. You couldn't be that stupid, could you?
Well, people used to say, shout out Heil Hitler.
But that's not the man's name. Like, who doesn't know what is the man's first name? Oh, Adolf. Who would know that the man's name is Adolf?
That person. Where am I going now? John, you're on 98 FM. How are you, John?
Okay, John.
John, what was or what is your sister's blonde moment?
Years ago, I had a question about chocolate chip cookies. How do the big chunks not melt in the oven? My sister's reply was, maybe they put them in afterwards.
Well, now...
I'm laughing with that now.
It's a reasonable question.
Yeah, don't knock that, because I thought that as well. I've always wondered how...
Well, how do they not melt?
I don't know.
I still don't know the answer to that. Do you know the answer, John?
I don't.
Oh, so you're shaming your sister for not knowing the answer, but you don't know the answer yourself?
Well, she thought to put them in afterwards, though.
Well, I would have thought that as well.
That's a reasonable assumption, is it not? No?
I didn't think so.
Okay, this is a complete by-the-by, but can somebody explain to us how the chocolate chips are hard in a chocolate chip cookie?
Because you bake cookies for about 20 minutes at 180 degrees. Now, that's enough to melt metal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, those chocolate chips, if you were to put them into a microwave oven for 2 minutes, they'd melt.
Yeah. How come they don't melt in the biscuit?
And how come John doesn't have the answer? So, John, you laughed at your sister, yet you don't have the solution.
I did. Well, how are you supposed to put them in the cookie dough when that's cooked?
I presume you just stick them in the hard cookie, do you? I don't know.
Somebody please explain to us, if you wouldn't mind, on 6797981. Text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. Where am I going now? Philip, you had a blonde moment when you were little.
Yeah, I was about 6. It was my first time going to the cinema. So we went to see Indiana Jones and Harold's Cross.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there watching the movie. Next minute, a man goes to get a taxi was. And I just stood up, let a big scream, "Watch out, mister!" Me, first time there, thinking everything was happening for real in front of me.
Oh, you thought Harrison Ford was like Indiana Jones was literally in the cinema with you?
Exactly, and I thought it was all happening there. I didn't realise.
God, you should never go and see a 3D movie then.
And I have to say, I've
grown up since.
I've never seen that Indiana Jones movie. Have you, Adrian? Indiana Jones and the Harold's Cross?
No, I haven't. No.
Must be a
no.
new one, is it?
Have you ever seen a 3D movie?
Sorry?
Have you ever seen a 3D movie?
I have, yeah.
And they're mad now because they really feel like they're there in front of you. Anyway, that's a blonde moment. Actually, just as another by-the-by.
Yeah.
3D movies.
They're gone.
Gone?
Yeah.
They don't do them anymore. Why is that?
I don't know, but I went out and bought a 3D TV.
I told you at the time it was a waste of money.
About 6 years ago, and it was great. When I first bought it, I was watching EastEnders in 3D and all that. It was mad.
Yeah.
Watching Coronation Street, it was like I was in the Rovers pulling points. It was unbelievable. And I haven't turned on the 3D on my telly in about 6 years. Do you want to buy a 3D?
No.
Do you want to buy a 3D?
Nobody does, because nobody... I always found... I went to a couple of 3D movies and I had a headache when I came out because the effect of the glasses on my eyes. It didn't work for me at all.
Yeah, like that movie. What's that movie, the 3D movie that's like 6 hours long? In the Jungle, the James Cameron one that everybody went to see.
Oh, Avatar.
Avatar.
Yeah.
If you watch that in 3D, you literally will have a headache for about a week after.
Yeah. Anyway, 3D movies are now a thing of the past.
Did you get the answer to the chocolate chip cookies?
No, not yet, no. Niall, tell me about your missus.
Well, we were going out to Bray one day, and I said to her, Bono lives out this way, out by O'Leary. And she's like, who's Bono? I was like, Bono, you too? With or without you, Vertigo, song singer. She goes, who? I was like, really? And she goes, he sings songs, does he? I was like, yeah, you too. She goes, oh, now I know who you're talking about. And she said, like, I thought you really didn't know who Bono was there for a second.
But she does. And she did in the end.
Yeah. Well, no, everybody knows who Bono is. Do you know how to get chocolate chip cookies into cookies without them melting?
No, that's a boggler, that one.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, nobody knows.
It's kind of like the modern day version of how do they get the figs into the fig rolls, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Like nobody has the answer.
We'll get the answer in a second, okay? Hang on there. Is this person's name Ix? Or Ick? IK? Hello? Hello? IK?
Yeah, go ahead, this is IK speaking.
Sorry, what is your name?
IK, I and a K.
Oh, right, okay, fair enough.
No, not IK, IK.
It's a two-letter word, just I and a K.
Okay, IK, how are you?
I'm good.
What is your bland moment?
A long listener, big fan of your show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, IK.
A couple of years back, I was having a family dinner. We went over to Sweden. I was meeting the in-laws for the first time, and we're having this family dinner. And the house cat came into the living room, to the dining room, and there was a beautiful-looking cat.
Yeah.
And I said to the family, and I goes, with a small face, and I goes, this will make a lovely, lovely, lovely lady purse. I was cornered for that. I shouldn't have said that in the family, meeting the family for the first time in a public place.
You said this cat will make a what?
A lovely looking lady purse.
You said about the family cat, it'll make a nice purse.
Yeah.
I'd say.
It was a horrible thing to say.
I would.
I learned my lesson after that.
I'd say you bloody did. So he's visiting the parents.
I got the story.
Meet the parents.
No, I got the story without and clear. Are you still with this woman, IK?
No, unfortunately not. We broke up a few years back.
Yeah, no wonder after that.
I was cornered. I learned my lesson after that. I had to close my mouth throughout the rest of the evening.
IK, how do they get chocolate chips into the cookies?
Geez, that's a tough one.
No, it's a very tough one. I think we may have answers, though. Robbie thinks he has the answer for the cookies, how the chocolate remains hard in the cookies.
Lads, it's really easy when you think about it. When cookies are baked and they come out of the oven, they're soft. Then they push the chocolate bits into the cookie, and voila.
No, that doesn't make sense at all, because the dough is red hot. It's boiling hot.
Case closed.
No, that's not it.
I hate imagine having that job. You have to put 50 chocolate chips into every cookie.
No, because it's hot when it comes out. So the chocolate would just melt. No, that's not the answer. Eileen.
The reason that the chocolate chips don't melt in the oven is it's the cookie dough that surrounds them, insulates the chocolate chip, and therefore they just slightly melt.
No, that's not true either, because a lot of the chips are outside the cookie dough. They're on the periphery of the cookie.
So some of them are inside it as well.
Yeah, but those ones obviously wouldn't melt.
And finally, Derek's daughter had a blonde moment.
Hi lads, a couple of years ago my daughter said to me, Dad, the stamp is on the egg when the chicken lays. How does that happen? I told her that the chicken has a little stamp machine up his arse, and that's how they come out with the stamp, the out-of-date stamp.
Oh. Right. Thank you very much. This is 98fm's Dublin Talks. On the way after the break, the difficulties of placing a child with autism in school.
Dublin Talks with Buy Local, because smarter shopping supports us all. 98FM.
And this is Adrian Kennedy with you until midday today. Now, next on the programme, do you have a child with autism? If so, how difficult was it or is it to find a school place for a child with autism? Well, today, autism campaigners have called on the Minister for Education to use new powers to ensure that all children with autism have a school place in September. A leading autism charity, As I Am, has said there's a crisis in the Dublin area, with many children unable to access a place in primary school for the coming term. So today we want to find out just how bad a problem this is. If you're the parent of a child who is on the autism spectrum, is getting your child into a school that difficult? Does the government need to do more? 6797 981 is our telephone number. Text, WhatsApp, or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. Adam Harris is the founder and CEO of As I Am. Adam, welcome to 98 FM.
Good morning, Adrian. Thanks for covering this issue.
Adam, this doesn't sound good to hear you describe a crisis in the Dublin area for school places for kids with autism.
Indeed, and I wish it wasn't the case, but unfortunately this is something that we've been seeing developing for some time. Travelling around the country, and indeed particularly around the Dublin area, I've been meeting families whose children are not able to get a suitable school place. And this isn't always a straightforward issue. In some instances, it's literally a case that in their area there are no schools that have a suitable autism class, or indeed there might be no special school placement that the child requires. In other instances, we're seeing children enrolled in mainstream school, but because they're not being appropriately supported, the child maybe isn't able to attend or is being put on a reduced timetable illegally by the school. So this is having a very real impact, and it's preventing autistic people from accessing their constitutional right to education. So it's something that we've been looking into. We did a major survey in April which documented the cases of over 313 children around the country, the majority of whom were in Dublin, who were in this situation. And the department responded at the time that they were satisfied that there was adequate school places. That was April. It's now August, and we're seeing families in the exact same situation. We're encouraging anyone in this situation to contact As I Am because we want to document the cases and bring them to the department. But we are unfortunately in a situation now where there is children around Dublin who in 4 weeks' time, when the school is open, will not have anywhere to go to school.
Now, is it a case that they won't have anywhere to go to school, or they won't have anywhere that can cater for a child with autism?
There will be both instances. You will have children who simply do not have a school place. So we have dealt with parents who've applied to 10 schools, 20 schools and 30 schools who have maybe not said they do not have a suitable place, or indeed have refused to enrol their child on the spectrum. In some instances, we have a situation where children are literally sitting at home, and in others, they're enrolled in mainstream school but don't have access to an autism class place or supports like an SNA or additional teaching time. And as a result, the place is there, but it's no use to the child.
Explain to people who may not be overly familiar with autism the special needs or the special facilities that a child living with autism needs from a school, because a lot of people don't really understand that.
Completely. So autism is a lifelong developmental condition. It affects how people communicate, imagine and experience social situations. So it might mean that you would have a child on the spectrum who isn't able to speak, or who maybe finds it quite difficult to communicate on a one-to-one basis or in a classroom setting. You would have a lot of children that are very, very impacted by the sensory environment. So if you think about a busy school with lots of noise and things happening, this might be very difficult for the child on the autism spectrum to cope with. And for many autistic people, routine and clarity are incredibly important. So just day-to-day school life can be quite difficult. Everybody on the spectrum is quite different. So you're talking about a community of people where you might meet one person and you may not be aware they're on the spectrum, through to somebody who will require a huge amount of support, even in terms of basic communication. And there's a reality that in recent years in Ireland, we've gone on a journey. So now the majority of people on the spectrum attend mainstream school. 1 in 65 children in our school system has a diagnosis of autism. But unfortunately, we've moved people into the school system without always planning it correctly and without always providing the support that's required. So the vast majority of teachers haven't been able to access appropriate training in autism, or haven't accessed appropriate training. We have a situation where a lot of our school building will be very, very overwhelming for people on the spectrum. And even basic things like codes of behaviour in school, they might be written based on, what might be considered naughty behaviour or difficult behaviour for a typically developing child, but for an autistic person, it might be that the person actually is behaving in a different way because they're unable to communicate. So as a result of that, there's many children missing out on school. And the reality is that we have a community of people who really at that early stage in our lives need that extra bit of support to enable the person to reach their potential. But in reality, they're receiving less than their typically developing peers.
Okay, you want to find out, finally, Adam, how big a problem this is. In fact, I'm about to talk to a lady who has a story to tell of how she can't get a place for her child. But you want to hear about every child in the Dublin area who can't get a place in school, who's living with autism. What do people do? How do they get in touch with you?
That's right. So under the School Admissions Act, the Minister now has the power to direct a school to open an autism class. And he's begun the process to do that in Dublin 15, where there's a particular problem with maybe 40 children who don't presently have a school space. We know that this is a problem right across the Dublin area. If you can email us on info@asam.ie, we can send you the form that we need you to fill out. And we want to make very, very clear to the Minister, this isn't an issue in one postcode or in one school. This is a nationwide systemic problem that needs action.
Okay, info@asiam.ie. If you're affected by this with your child finding it difficult to get a school place, let them know where and when. As we said, 313 cases so far that you know of, but you want to find out how big the problem is. Adam Harris, founder and CEO of As I Am, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. And once again, if you are affected by this, call us, text us or send a WhatsApp voice note to 0877 98 98 98. We may not have time to take your call today, but we will come back to this tomorrow if we won't have time to today because it is a huge issue, but something we will come back to tomorrow. Nadine, welcome to 98 FM.
Hey, Adrian.
Now, Nadine, you are a mother who is campaigning to get a school place for your son. You also went on a hunger strike over this. This is how big a problem this is in your world. Yeah. Where are you now? What is the current situation? Tell me firstly about your son.
His name is Maddox. He's 6. He'll be 7 now on the 10th of August. He's a few things going on with autism. There's all different stages of it. I've that many things going on in my head. I can't get the names to it, but there's a lot. He has like an anger issue with it too. He's on medication in the morning and the night to calm him down. And it took me a long while to come out with this and to fight. But my Maddox was eating my chairs before we found out. It took me to last year to go pay private because the HSE kept putting me back and saying, you're on a wait list, you're on a wait list, you're on a wait list. But I got to the stage, Maddox left himself in hospital from eating his clothes and eating wool. And he got thrown out of school the last 2 years, the same school, Georgia Hill Primary School. He was locked in a room for being bold. He wasn't able to do his summer test because the work wasn't able for him. I put to the school, please, can somebody get the work at the psychologist meeting we had with the psychologist girl? We were waiting on her for nearly 2 years. And when she came, then she ordered why Maddox was in that school to get the work for him. But that principal told me it's not a school for kids like Maddox, and she wouldn't be able to get that. But only for the SMA.
So he was privately diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome.
Yeah.
But you're calling for the HSE to provide a full autism test, which you're waiting for still.
No, I paid private from Dr. Professor Peter Fitzgerald.
Right.
It's a commission test they're trying to say. See, they try to overturn you, Adrian, when you pay private because you know they're at to be leaving you in the waiting list. Now, I'm in a group of it's a parents group on Facebook for all the autistic children because I'm only new to this, and I'm learning as I'm going. To be honest, I'm doing more like updating on my son. I should be my own son's social worker. Nobody ever stepped in and helped me. I was left in the darkness with him. And I still am. I have a social worker and there's no one willing to help me.
So your son is 6. He's been basically you've been told he can't go to this particular school or that particular school.
They're all full.
What is the story for September then, which is only 4 weeks away?
I tell you where he has to go. I'm going to be learning him for September. Me as a mother is that I have to step up and go in and buy all the things and get drawer and boards because Maddox is like basically a newborn baby. He doesn't look like. I want to know what the people are saying. The child doesn't like. They're putting it down. I was on a Dublin bus the other day, and because he had like a bit of a fit and went into one of these streams, I was told I had to leave the bus because I couldn't calm my son down. So this is where it's gone. I've been even put off a bus with him. And the medication is supposed to be calming him down. It's it's like I'm going backwards. He pulls him. He says he's like a newborn baby. I have a 3-year-old that's able to go up and down to the Thailand. It's helping him. And my 10-year-old, it's taking a big effect on my family, and there's no one willing to help, not only me. All the other mothers. Look at that little boy on the news the other night, just like Alex. He's losing out on so much. The end of the school year, I asked her where was his work. She gave me a school picture. Where was his work? She hadn't got any for him because he was locked up in the room like a prisoner.
My God,
Only for the SNA. Only for the SNA, because the SNA stood up and helped him. They went against him. He wasn't even allowed in for the fancy dress up. 2 years ago, he was kept upstairs in the room. He was always told he was bold. Parents is after being speaking about him on Facebook.
Okay, Nadine, this sounds awful, and I'll tell you what I want to do if it's okay with you. I want to come back to this conversation tomorrow, and Adam Harris is still on the line. Adam, I'm getting messages from people in tears listening to this story. This is completely unacceptable. This is outrageous, isn't it?
It's outrageous.
Yeah.
And it just shows the need to step in and provide the support.
Okay, if both of you are available tomorrow morning, I'd love to continue this conversation at 10 o'clock in the morning, if that's okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. Nadine, I will talk to you again tomorrow
Adrian,
morning.
can I just say this? They're like putting them in a box and closing the box when they hear autism, but they don't want to help us, they don't want to know. Mr. McHugh is saying hello to this, they're doing that. My Maddox is out since before the summer holidays, and the principal never even rang me to say, why was he not going back? I took him out of the mothers speaking about him.
Nadine, I'm really sorry that I have to end this conversation now.
No problem, Adrian.
But I will. I'll talk to you after the programme, and I will talk to you again on the show tomorrow morning. Okay, we're going to try. You're very welcome. This is a massive problem. 313 children that we know of in the situation where they've no school place because they're on the autism spectrum. We will continue that conversation tomorrow morning at 10. That's it from us for today. Thank you for joining us. Barry Dunn is next. He's got some great music lined up in the next hour, like these.
Dublin Talks with Buy Local, because smarter shopping supports us all. 98 FM.